Greetings, writers. It's Mr. Hebda from the Lackawanna College Writing Center. And in this episode, we're going to look at how to format quotations in MLA. So let's review first. What is a direct quotation? This is when we take the exact words of someone else and we put them in our essay to back up our arguments, to help persuade our readers to agree with us. So they kind of follow this logic if you think about it. You're probably a student if you're listening to this video, and you may not have a whole lot of expertise in what you're writing on. So your reader's going to know that, and they're going to wonder, well, why should I agree? Why should I listen when you don't have a whole lot of background in that area, right? And you could say, well, hey, you might not agree with me, but how about this expert who does agree with me, right? It's a way to kind of convince someone, your reader, to agree with you. And it helps make the essay stronger, and this is why it's often required to have quotes in research papers. Here are some basic rules governing quotations, whether you're working in MLA or any other citation method. So usually quotations should be short. They should be less than a sentence long. They need to be in quotation marks to show that they're someone else's words and not our own. They need to flow with the text of an essay, and I'll show you an example of that in the next slide. And always, always make sure that any sentence that uses a quotation has an in-text citation at the end of it. Otherwise, it's going to look like we're trying to steal someone else's words and use them as our own. And that's plagiarism. All right, I often see the students have trouble bringing quotations into their essays. They'll often take a whole sentence or two, like this, and just plop them into an essay. That's not what we want for a successful essay. But why not? So the reason that we don't want to put in big quotes like this is because most of the essay should be in our own words, not in someone else's. Plus, it's stronger to zero in on a phrase that's really strong in that big sentence, like this one I have in green. And then we can use our own words to lead into that quote, just like this. So in yellow here, I have my own words. The novel Little Women portrays young women who gather, quote, and I bring in that quote right there, a sense of power and independence from hard work. Don't forget to make sure that you have that in-text citation at the end. As a reminder, MLA wants to have the author's last name, followed by the page number, all in parentheses, with the period at the end. All right, we're good to go. So you might be having some trouble coming up with ways to introduce your quotes in your essays. Here are a few examples to help get your imagination going as you try to build some of your own. You might say, according to one author, in the words of this article. Or you might even use the exact name of the author, like from our Little Women example, as Louisa May Alcott writes in her novel. Louisa May Alcott insists, and you can use other verbs like describes. Feel free to explore and play with it. All right, so let's say that we take an example like the one from our last slide, where we bring in the author's name in the introduction. So right here, I bring in Louisa May Alcott's name, and that changes the way that we cite at the end. Then we only need to have the page number here because we already mentioned the author's name earlier in the sentence. But what if we have more than one author, and we cite them at the end of the sentence? In that case, we would take the last name of the author, the first author in the list, and we would follow it with the Latin phrase et al. Now, the period in et al comes after the all, not after the et. And it's a Latin phrase that means and others. So it's kind of the academic way of saying, but wait, there's more. But you're probably using websites in your essays. And if we're using a website, you've probably noticed they don't really have page numbers. So when you cite them, you wouldn't need to put a page number at the end. You would just put the author's last name. And if you have trouble finding the author's name on the web page, check the top or the bottom of the web page to see if you can find one. If you can't find one, then we can cite the web page like this. We'll take a shortened form of the web page title, just 2 or 3 words, in quotation marks, and place it at the end of our sentence. All right, here are some citations for all the sources I quoted in this video. And don't forget to check out the Lackawanna College Writing Center YouTube channel. Keep on writing, everyone. Mr. Hebda out.